I was asked to go down and ask him to stand down because I had a ambitious plan for the Trade Envoy network.
The allegations against him relate to his time as a UK trade envoy. What does that kind of role involve? And whatever the outcome, what do these events mean for the future of representing Britain overseas, particularly in that capacity? Well, Lord Marland, Jonathan Marland, was a trade envoy in David Cameron's government in the 2010s, and he joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Guto.
Whatever else people think or say about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and the process will now take its course, and the rest of us have got to, back off from that. But tell us about his role as a trade envoy. Tell us first, how does a trade envoy help on a trade mission alongside, nameless officials, civil servants, all those people? How does it help to have somebody who, shall we say, is a VIP of sorts or a celebrity?
Excuse me. Well, I started the Trade Envoy network after having asked His Royal Highness, or Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, as he now is, to stand down from the role that he had. His role was not really tied in with the business side of government. He was more relating to the Foreign Office. He was appointed by the Queen, as far as I remember. And I was asked to go down and ask him to stand down because I had a ambitious plan for the Trade Envoy network. And the initial plan was that we would have individual trade envoys to countries where I could see that we hadn't been, where there were huge growth opportunities, and we had a dedicated person to do that. And originally it was cross-party because I felt that it was for the benefit of UK PLC, that these were impact players, as I used to call them, people like David Putnam, Lord Putnam, the great movie maker, Baroness Scotland, who'd been Attorney General, myself, others. So they were all given dedicated countries of which to be the trade envoy and develop business and trade. And the reason for choosing members of the House of Lords was that they didn't have to rush off to surgeries, didn't have to be defined by a whip, did have commercial experience, which is badly lacking in Parliament, to be honest. And that when a dignitary or a business minister from that country came over, he could entertain them in addition to government ministers and ambassadors. So it was really putting a commercial edge into the trade activity, and also having someone who they would take notice of in that country because they were a person of substance. That, unfortunately, has been watered down by political patronage, but that's another issue.
So the courts, the police will consider whether there's anything to investigate further in the case of specific allegations against Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. But the challenge with his role, as you imply, was that he had more of a sort of roaming brief. He wasn't a specialist. He didn't have the experience in a particular industry or a reputation for that, but he also wasn't targeted at a country or a region.
No, he wasn't, and that's why I wanted to define it. But having said all that, he was extremely good at it in certain countries, not in every, of course. Like all of us, he's not popular universally. He wasn't popular universally. I think he's less popular now, probably. He wasn't. He was very good with certain countries, and no doubt about it, had a role in the UK PLC benefiting from it.
And what a lot of people won't understand is that, when you are abroad, having a royal there is a bit of a draw, isn't it? It's a kind of bait, if you like. You can say, come and meet the best qualified sort of economist from Britain to tell you exactly how the system works. And people will think, oh, I'm washing my hair. Or you say, come and meet royalty and have your picture taken with him. And they'll turn up and then the experts will pile in.
Absolutely right, and he was very good at that. It'll be interesting because as trade envoy, I was the trade envoy, so I ran this thing. I had very little government information other than BAE Systems want to sell 12 Typhoons to Kuwait, or the Scottish Whisky Association wants to increase its sales to India. Those were the sort of briefs we were given. We had no government papers of any sensitivity. Obviously, I'd been in government, but it was not deemed a ministerial role when I was doing it. So it's interesting to see where this information comes from and what it is. It's really an extraordinary scene, isn't it? When you have 6 police cars turning up at a man's place, the man is a broken man, as we know. I mean, extraordinary, isn't it, that you should have 6 police cars to arrest someone, then look through the stuff. And you wonder where this is all going to end. And you wonder where it's all going to end for Peter Mandelson, don't you?
Well, we'll see whether anything happens with him, because he's been investigated and talked to. But on the information, what you're saying essentially is that you were basically given a very, very kind of general top-line brief. You know, we want to flog more typhoons in the Middle East, or we want to sort of attract X billions to build an airport or finish off HS2 in our dreams. And you're meant to just work the room.
You saw it when you were working for Boris, you know, that we tried to get inward investment into London, and very successfully did so. You know, which was much needed at the time. You know, when you were sort of involved in it, when you were working for Boris, what the business is, and you know, it was no different from that, Guto.
Yeah, so it's working the room essentially, and we did the same to try and get the Football World Cup to come here. You know, sort of very unsuccessfully. I remember that one vividly. It went to Russia and Qatar, of course, but it's the same sort of thing. So you're not instinctively, you don't think it's routine that people are given access in virtue of their role as trade envoys to things that would be regarded as state secrets or even uber sensitive trade information.
No, we might have had sensitive trade information purely related to trade. That's a question of, you know, the civil service have this great habit of making something sensitive. We would have had, say now we were doing a trade deal with India. The Indian trade envoy would have been brought up to speed with where we were on the trade deal of India, but that's as far as it would have gone. And if that's sensitive information, it isn't, in my view. It's just briefing someone as to the activities in the country. But no doubt that there would have been some sort of sensitive warning put on some of it.
Final one, Lord Marland, somebody who knows how these things work better than most. What is your concern, regardless of, you know, where the police investigation goes, but just in general, the spotlight being on the UK and being on the royal family and the way that our system operates? What's your concern about, you know, Britain's reputation and your ability to do trade missions, our ability to do trade missions in the future?
Well, I think there's a deeper rooted thing than the royal family, to be honest. You know, it's what is our role globally now, and that's taken a real dent. You know, I chair something called the Commonwealth Business Council, where I'm welcomed open arms in most countries because we can deliver trade and business activities. But there's very little evidence of the UK punching its weight in those countries, to be honest. And it worries me that the infrastructure that now exists across the world, that used to be a Rolls-Royce infrastructure, has crumbled and does not deliver for the UK in the same way that it did. And I could see that, and that's why we started the Trade Envoy network, because inevitably civil servants are not commercial people, and nor should they necessarily be. But business is commercial. As you know, Guto, if you're going to land the Qataris investing in London or the Olympic site, you need a businessman at one end of the discussion to ensure that you know, the terms of the deal are correct, etc. And that's why the Trade Envoy worked extremely well. I'm bound to say it, obviously, when I was doing it, carried on until it started to get politicised, and it probably needs a revamp. But you know, Britain's status has crumbled recently, and it needs a really good think. This particular incident, actually, I don't think has much resonance beyond these shores. It obviously does in America. America have done incredibly well to deflect the aggro that some of their people are going to have on Epstein, on Prince Andrew and Peter Mandelson. So I think that the Foreign Office and the biz, as they used to be called, need to have a really good think about how they're going to represent the UK globally and on what basis.
Lord Marland, Jonathan Marland, thank you very much.
Thanks, Guto.